I don't have time. I don't have time to source all these items. I don't have time to list all these items, take all these stupid photographs, pack all this crazy crap up, deal with customers' questions. I just don't have time for my eBay business.
And that's how we're going to start today.
That's how we're going to start. Is that you? It could be you. Welcome to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I'm Prof Sales.
And I'm Just Ask Kaaren, your #1 online e-commerce cheerleader. Woo woo!
Oh, I like that. It's a nice intro.
You know, it's just on the fly.
So this channel is all about reselling, being an entrepreneur, being in business for yourself, your mindset, and staying positive, believe it or not, despite that intro we just did.
And, you know, sometimes positive is a little goofy. And if that's over the top, well, this is not the channel for you.
That's true. That's true. So we are glad that you're here. There's a live chat going on right now. So if you want to join us on that chat on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we come on at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. And you can join the live chat. And of course, if you have a question or comment, please leave it after the video. And we wouldn't mind if you hit that like button too. True story.
Smash it.
Lets us know we're doing a good job and we appreciate it. So it's Monday, which means that we are, you know, we started this Monday like we start a lot of Monday. Hey, what are we going to talk about? Sometimes we actually plan in advance for these shows, but a lot of times we don't, much to her chagrin.
Because, you know, planning in advance would just not make any sense whatsoever.
True, true.
But today, I will say that our brainstorming extravaganza was quite productive. I'm actually very excited about some new things that we've got going on, in particular, how we're going to approach today, and even how we even got motivated to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, because in case you guys didn't know, there's a new community tab for, they've basically redone the community tab for YouTube channels. So if you go to my homepage on this channel, you'll see there's a community tab. And on that community tab, you can have a discussion. I think it takes the place of the old discussion tab, which wasn't used a lot. And it gives us creators the ability to interact a little differently with our community. It's almost like a page would be on like Facebook or something like that, but it's for YouTube. And I guess it was a few days ago, I posted a question on there and I said, hey, let me know what sort of topics you guys are interested in. Maybe something we haven't done yet, or maybe it's something you wanted to know more about. And if we can do it, if we think we can do it justice, we'll take a whack at it, right? And maybe even if we can't. And somebody posted a comment, which we're going to share with you guys, which sort of spurred on this idea for this show today about time and your eBay business, and really business in general, not just eBay, but they very specifically talked about eBay. So we're gonna share that comment with you. Let's see.
And because, you know, we ask for comments and input all the time, and I think a lot of YouTube channels do, but we're actually going to do it. We're going to follow through and follow up. And if today works, we may do this as a regular thing, because it's in reading this particular question, it kind of started this entire conversation, debate, dialogue, however you want to look at it.
And it's funny because you were talking about time on our Rebels Reselling group on Facebook and post on that. And that was before she even knew about this particular comment, which was interesting. So let me share that with you. And this comment is from Duncan VR. And Duncan, I don't know if you are male or female. So we're just going to pretend you're male for the moment.
Yeah, we're going to go all politically correct and assume that everybody we bring up is gender neutral, unless we know you personally, and then we can call you out on it.
And if you're in the chat, let us know, Duncan. And it's fine either way, but our apologies. But Duncan says, hot topic, how to deal with time. It always runs out. Without overdoing it, how do you keep up? My store can't manage 400 listings as things are selling too fast. I have a second store too, and most help you find these days is useless, so you end up having to do everything yourself. Time management only helps to a certain point. Well, thank you very much, Duncan, for that comment, and I do appreciate you leaving that. And Duncan is definitely a fan of the channel, has been on in our live chat many times and made many comments on the actual the feed, or, you know, actual videos in the feed.
And what's totally cool about Duncan's comment is it's not just we can answer it in one question. We found ourselves, and this particular post was a couple of days ago, and parts of it I've been thinking about all weekend. In particular, the whole time management piece, that it's not, and we're going to talk more about that. We're going to actually go through it, but there's not just one answer for this. And the more we talked about it, the more we started sort of, you know, and we do our best, and we sort of joke and read things in someone else's voice or whatever. So we can't speak entirely to the true intent of the question.
Right.
We can only guess based on the words that are given to us. But we're going to do our best, and we're actually going to go in some different directions, because what was interesting is we took different perspectives. Like, we kind of looked at, as we often do, we looked at this completely from a different point of view, right?
Yes, I agree. And I'm just going to ask you guys a question in the chat, or if you're watching this later, you can comment. How many of you have more than 168 hours in a week? That's 24 times 7, by the way, for those of you mathematically challenged, which is usually me.
I'll give you a hint. It's a trick question.
How many of you have more? How many of you have less than 168 hours per week?
Sometimes it feels that way.
We'll see if we'll probably have some snarky comments here in the chat, which is fine. It's probably encouraged, actually. Well, the true answer is none of you have any more or less hours than anyone else.
Time is the great equalizer, is it not? It's the one thing. Like, you might have more items in your store, or we might have more money to invest in the jeans or whatever, but we don't have any more time than you do.
Yes.
I mean, maybe we utilize it a little differently, and that's not what we're talking about here, and we will later, but we all have the same amount of time to cram in all of the things, whether it's our sleep, our eat, our work, our eBay, our date night.
So let's talk about that, because Duncan's comment speaks to this idea of time, right? So we don't have any more time. We don't have any less time than anyone else, right? But we do have a choice in how we spend it. That you absolutely have. Now, some of you are going to say, I don't have a choice. I've got this going on, and this is happening. I got kids over here, and a husband over there, and a wife over here, and this job, and that job, and this business, and this thing. They are still choices. They're choices. They're choices no matter. Now, you may say the alternative to the choices you're making is not a good alternative, but it's still a choice, right? So what has this got to do with Duncan's comment specifically? Well, I have a question, another question for you. Do you want to work your business, or do you want it to work you? And that is a choice. Because I started thinking about this idea that we have these choices about how we spend our time, and we have choices about how we spend our time in our business. So let me ask you this hypothetical situation. If you could pass off everything that you do in your business, and I know some of you are full-time, some of you are part-time, some of you are somewhere between those two, some of you it's a hobby, but if you could pass off everything you do in your eBay business, every single part of it, to employees, to automation, to contractors, to being able to delegate it out, maybe some things you would eliminate and get rid of. If you could pass all that off, what would it take for that to be worth it to you? What would you have to get back out of it? Because we already know that if you could do that, like you literally are hands off from your business, you would already get the time you're spending right now. We know you will get that. That's defined in the premise of the question. But what else would you need to get from it? And for a lot of you, I bet it's revenue, right? A lot of you would say, I would want to get X number of dollars. Now, why am I asking that question? Because right now, most of us are operating under this assumption, and I have done it in the past as well. We've got a little bit about it. I am under the assumption, we've operated the assumption that if we put in more time, we will get more revenue and will be therefore happier. Mm-hmm. This is what the show we watched last night, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we think it will make us happier, and we will. So that's why we do it. If we put more time and more energy in our business, eventually we'll get more revenue and we'll be happier about that. Because we all like this idea of this pursuit of happiness, right? We want to be happy. But I'm asking you, if you could you would have to invest no more time. What would you have to get of it revenue-wise to still have happiness? because we know that if you did all those things I just said, if you automated, if you delegated, if you contracted out, if you had employees, we know those things cost money. Those all cost money. So you're not going to get as much revenue, but you are going to get more time back out of it. Because where you want that to be your business model, could there come a point where you pass off maybe to a family member, maybe to your son or daughter, and say, hey, I'm going to give you control of the family business, the family eBay business, the family dry cleaning business, the family oil change shop business, what the restaurant you run, whatever it is. In return, they get something great, but you also get back your time, right? That's what you're getting back, because this is at the heart of Duncan's question. And Kaaren, you made a great point about this right under that question.
This one.
Yes.
Yeah, because Duncan there's a lot going on in that, a lot more going on in that question other, just than time and time management, but it speaks to employees and having difficulty hiring employees. And we had an entire discussion this morning about what that looks like. And I think that one of the first things that came into my mind is that we have to make our business unpersonal. It's not personal. So just like you'll hear us go on and on about how the complaining buyer or the inquisitive almost buyer, it might get under your skin or it might irritate you, or it's not personal. At the end of the day, at the end of the transaction, whatever, it's just business. And I think that we put personal into our employees as well, especially if we hire family. And that's a little gray as far as, and more difficult, I think, to keep the personal out of it. But if you can start there, that the business part isn't personal, I think that's a wonderful place to start.
Yeah.
Especially if there's family involved.
No, I agree.
But when we hire people, one of the things that you and I debated in preparing for the show today is that when you hire somebody, you're not hiring a clone of yourself. And I think we kind of get hung up on, especially as entrepreneurs, self-employed folks, where it's maybe we're holding it a little closer to the chest, right? Because all of our ducks are in that retail store or that lawn business or that whatever it is.
Right.
It's our baby. So we have this idea in our head that it's self-defeating, but we are the only ones that can do it. We're the only ones that can do it perfect. We're the only ones that can do it the right way. But we're killing ourselves in the process. If at some point we can't delegate that out, if we can't find a way to get help, reinforcements, you're right. You're only going to be able to reach a certain point. Well, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to work yourself into the ground, or you're going to really need to take a look at, hiring somebody else.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's unrealistic. And I think that's where, as e-commercepreneurs, we kind of get it wrong, is because we want to hire that us, like that we want to recreate ourselves, and it's just impossible. It's not practical to do that.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And Duncan had another question about employees and so on in a different comment. But this is reality. To Karen's point, they're not going to be as invested as you, an employee, or a system, a piece of technology is not going to be investing in you at all. It's just a piece of technology. If you're getting it to do something you had before and it breaks or doesn't work, they're going to make mistakes. And by the way, you do too. But they're going to make mistakes, and they're sometimes not going to be as efficient as you. That's not what you're hiring. That's not why you're hiring. They have a different agenda than you do. They may, on some level, care about you and want you to be successful because they see it's part of their success. But ultimately, they're there for their success. We're all self-interested to some degree. We have to be. It's self-preservation. And we can't expect them to be, as Kaaren said, a clone of us.
Well, and somebody mentioned earlier in the comment, and I meant to grab it knowing that but anyway, it's about having, working the systems that you have in place, like creating systems for things. And if you've been around us here on this channel for a while, we completely minutified every part of our system. And we have had a couple of employees along the way. And, in other parts of retails, we've managed employees as well.
Right.
But you're right. it's about training them to the systems that you create. It's not about thinking they're going to come in and know everything. So it strikes me when people get frustrated when they, especially in this community, when they hire somebody and it's instantly frustrating. And that confounds me, because if you're setting the parameters for it and you're deciding, you know, how they're going to work or what they're going to do, that's kind of in your control. I mean, the other stuff to me is just like allowing the personal to filter in when it shouldn't, but how they employee for you is totally within your control.
So Vicki Clark just asked or made a great statement that takes us to our next point that ties into all of this. She said, I cannot imagine ever hiring someone. I don't want anyone in my business but me. All right, so I'm going to give you a hypothetical here, Vicki. Let's suppose that you could generate $1 million a year by hiring one employee who you would have to pay $100,000 a year. Because the reason I asked that question, and that's a pretty extreme, you know, amount of value that that employee would bring to your company, obviously a 10x, you know, versus what you're paying them. It's not money that most of us are afraid of losing when we're talking about hiring or delegation or things like this. It's control. It's absolutely control. I don't know Duncan, but I feel like Duncan's comment came from a place of, I don't want to lose control of my business. I don't want to give control of this part to this person or that part, because they won't do it as well. They won't be as efficient. They won't be as, you know what? You're right. They won't. But what we're hoping to get is something different than that. It's not about them being perfect at their job. And by the way, you train people. You train people, you train, you evaluate, you look at the results, you train some more, and then sometimes you make a decision they're not working out. They're just not at an acceptable level. But honestly, guys, this is not about money for most of you. It's control. And you feel like you will lose control of your business. You'll lose control of what you've built, what you're doing. And no amount of money sometimes would make it worth that. And that goes back to your point, Kaaren. It's not personal. It's business. You've got to have that mindset about it. Because if somebody came in and told me, hey, if you pay this person $10,000 a year, they'll bring you $100K worth of profit. Sign me up. I will deal with the headaches, because it's not personal for me, because the money is allowing me to take some of my time out of the business and go do other things that are more important, that I get more value out of, other than overseeing every little piece of minutia that goes on.
And we're not necessarily, well, we're kind of speaking out of both sides here. We're not necessarily asking you to have low expectations when you hire somebody, but maybe what we are suggesting is that you have realistic expectations. The person that you hire is just, they're not going to be as efficient as you, period. I don't care if they're 30 years younger, they're technologically, you know, advanced into the next century. They have 4 hands instead of 2. I mean, whatever it is.
That'd be nice.
It's just going to be different. They're not going to be as efficient as you. They're going to be different. And also, their motivation,
hands coming in from everywhere.
Their motivation is going to be different as well. Their agenda is going to be different. You know, maybe the person that saw your list on Craigslist to hire somebody to take photographs just needs to pay the rent. They got a couple of kids and they're struggling to get by this month. So all they want to do is pay rent. Or maybe they want to come and learn something, or whatever it is. So just don't lower your expectations about humanity, but do make them more realistic. You take out that personal piece, and I'm telling you, it's going to be exponentially better, more positive experience for both sides, employer and employee.
So let's go back to Duncan's comment. Duncan has made, on the face of the comment, we're saying, and sorry, Duncan, if this is not an accurate representation of what you meant.
Can you imagine if we went like,
all the way? No, it wasn't that at all.
That's not what I meant at all. Sorry, Duncan.
But Duncan, from the comment, has made the calculation that having total control over all aspects of his or her business is worth more than his or her time. Because here's where it comes in. Let's take the money out of it for a moment. If you are doing every single thing in your business, then you have to justify whether the time you're putting in is worth it. Because now you're not getting any sort of time multiplier here. You're not freeing up your time in another spot. your business takes X amount of time and you're going to get Y amount of revenue, and is it worth it? You got to make that calculation. But Duncan says that the store listings are selling too fast, okay? Which is a good problem to have, as you pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
But the underlying assumption there is that Duncan is not willing to give up the control to get back the time for someone else to deal with that. Suppose Duncan hired someone, we'll say, and I don't know Duncan's finances or their profit or what have you, but let's say that Duncan could. Duncan hires someone to come in and just packs and ships the orders every morning. And let's say that takes an hour. And so they do that 6 hours a week, and they pay this person maybe $10 an hour. So they pay him $60 a week to do that. Is that worth it? My question becomes, is it worth you spending your 6 hours a week to do it and whatever your time is worth versus paying someone else to do it at some percent of you? They won't be as good as you likely, although they could be better. We haven't even talked about that potential. I mean, that can happen, right? You can hire someone and they're better at that part of the job than you are.
Well, I mean, there's a school of thought that thinks you should always hire somebody smarter, better. So it becomes a reflection of you, right?
Right, right. And, you know, there's parts of your business that maybe you're really good at, you just don't want somebody else to do. What is it worth, or that you're really good at, you just don't like doing it? What is it worth for you to give that up? You may be better at it than them. Great. But you giving it up frees up that time and you don't like doing it. And it can be an automated response too. Like, you know, it can be that, you know, you're if you're an Amazon seller, for instance, maybe you employ a relister. A relister goes in and reprices your items given certain criteria that it sees on Amazon's platform. You can do that on your own. But I'm going to tell you, if you get up in the hundreds or thousands of listings on Amazon, same on eBay, that gets incredibly time consuming to do. Incredibly time consuming. So it's sometimes worth it to pay for a 30, 40, 50, bucks a month subscription for something to do that, so you don't have to worry about that. And it'll still make mistakes. It's not like because it's a piece of computer software that it doesn't make mistakes. It does sometimes. It's still, you know, it's programmed by faulty humans. So of course it's going to make mistakes. But this is about control, guys, and what you're worth giving up. Okay. And we, you know, I like coming up with little acronyms and metrics and so on.
Well, before we get into math, and there is going to be math today, no Adam, but what's cool about today's math is it's a new Prof math function formula. Prof theorem, but it's really, really cool. So this would be the time where we would say, hey, 141.
Oh my gosh.
Holy cow. Welcome, everybody. If you like what you're seeing. And another question that Duncan had that I'll just answer and you'll have to guess. No, Duncan, there's never too many pirates on the Prof Sales Show. So, arg, mateys, if you like what you see, smash the like button. Follow the channel. Hit the little alarm clock thingy to remind you when we're on. And we love that everybody's here. Thank you guys so much for coming out today.
Yes.
Oh, and we have the best wrenches moderators on YouTube. Hank and Lauren are both here today. Such a bonus and such a blessing. And we never stop to say hi and thank you. So
no, I'm not gonna say that.
Wrenches.
Well, it's with the pirate theme.
No, we're not ever going to call them that.
No, but it wasn't a bad thing.
The most wonderful women that you will ever meet. I've met both of them, just adore them. So publicly, thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you.
No whiteboard, Ed Miller, but that was not a bad guess. No, I'm just going to say this. All right, I want you to think about it this way, and you can write this down or put it in your own words, whatever you want. It's not like I trademark this.
It's a new, it's a new term.
Your value of your time, your value of time, your VOT.
V-O-T.
Victor, what's O? Victor.
I forgot O. Man,
Oracle. Victor, Oracle, Tango. It's not Oracle, but whatever. VOT, your value of time. So what is your average? October. Oh, that's good. What is your average? What is your hour worth that you spend in your business? Now, you might be saying to yourself, all right, great, Prof. You want me to figure out what my hourly time is worth? How do I do that? All right. There's lots of different ways you can view it. You can pick a number out of the air, or you could do it this way. You could say, all right, I think I want to make $100,000 a year for my business. That's my objective eventually. And I'm working it full time, which is roughly 2,000 hours a year. So that comes out to about 50 bucks an hour. All right. And you could do that any way you want. You could do it on a monthly basis, weekly, whatever you want. Maybe you think your hourly rate's should be more than that. Maybe it should be less than that. I don't care how you do it, but come up with whatever your value of time is, your VAT, how much your VAT is. VAT's your VAT.
It's just such a
wow. VAT's your VAT. That was funny.
VAT.
All right.
VAT.
So here comes the formula. Let's say you have a VAT of $50 an hour. Let's just say you valued your time at 50 bucks an hour. All right. When you can, here's your rule of thumb. When you can pay someone or something, maybe it's a piece of software, automation, what have you. When you can pay someone or something to do a task at a lower VAT, lower rate of pay than your VAT, you gain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so let's go back to our example for a moment ago. Let's say that you've put your VAT at 50 bucks an hour. All right, that's the value of your time. And you pay someone $10 an hour to pack and ship your items every week. If you spent those 6 hours doing it, it would cost you $300. You would have to justify getting $300 return on the investment of your time. I would argue that would be difficult to do on packing and shipping items. Mm-hmm. That would be very difficult. On the other hand, let's say that you pay Joe $60, $10 an hour times 6 to do it, right? And you take those 6 hours and go do something else that builds value in your business. Now, you're out the 60 bucks, but you're still able to spend the $300 worth of time somewhere else. So you still gain $240 worth of value. Any way you look at it, guys, any way you look at it. And I know a lot of you are going to say, yeah, but Joe won't be as good as me. And so, all right, bump it up to 12. Maybe you pay him 10, but you're going to say it's really more like 12 or 15. Mm-hmm. You're still coming out way to the good, way to the good, because you can take that time and do something else. And maybe that something else is spending your time with your family. Maybe it's doing something you really love to do. Maybe that's how you're justifying part of those 6 hours. Maybe it is putting it back in your business. But ultimately, guys, that's the way businesses are built. You're giving up some of your income to gain back some of your time. Now, a lot of you are putting all of your time into this to get all the income, but you're realizing, like Duncan, that you don't have enough time to do it. So how are you really ever, you're not, so in his case, in Duncan's case or her case, they are not maximizing their revenue because they don't have enough time. They don't have enough time, and you can only put 168 a week, and you can't even do that. You got to sleep and you got to eat and you got to have rest and downtime. And there's other factors. It's not even that much you can put into it. So your time is finite, but you can ultimately multiply that time out by using automated systems, by hiring people, by having contractors, by becoming more efficient, all these things. So that's how you figure the VAT.
Well, and you've always called it buying time. Like for years now, that's what you've equated, either hiring somebody else or delegating it to me. You know, when we did the split where I started taking all of the pictures and you did all of the listings, it's about buying time. And I think one of the last holdouts for people in this community in particular, because there were a lot of, jokes and some sincere control comments, right?
Right.
But it is like, it's a scary thing, giving up control of your business. And one of the holdouts for e-commerce sellers is that the sourcing part of it, the sourcing piece or the quality control piece is the most valuable to them. So why not delegate out the pictures? You know, we've had a couple of people. One was my son who helped us with pictures, and his picture taking ability, although he's a brilliant photographer, he just can't take pictures of jeans. And
plus he didn't like doing it.
Yeah, and that was the big thing, right?
It wasn't his thing, which I understand.
It was monotonous, and he just and it is, and it's, but that's certainly one of the trade-offs, right? If that's the bottom of the food chain, so to speak, as far as level of difficulty, I won't say importance, but let's just say level of difficulty in your steps of listing something, right?
Right.
That would be a logical thing to delegate out.
Yep.
And then, you know, it's called buying time. And you've talked about this for the last couple of years, that you can't make more time. You're right. It's finite. And we have a whole series on Rebels about, you Rebels just don't know it yet, but it's going to be a week of time. You know, what does time mean? What is it, you know, the value of it? Can you refund it? Can you swap it out? No, you can't.
Yeah.
It's the one thing, you know, even money arguably is replenishable. Time is not.
Right. And Clearance Ninja said, I could see immediately hiring contractors for listing items, but that would require tons of stuff in the door. I don't have that type of volume coming in the door. All right, perfect solution here. Easy peasy. Have someone come in once a month. You build up items to, let's say it's listing. You build up items to list, and maybe you're able to list some of them, but you have them come in once a month and say, hey, I need you to list those 50 items over this weekend. Easy peasy. I mean, you know, and you can list what you're able to do maybe during the day or during the week and so on. There's always ways around. You can batch things together. It's not like you have to have somebody working every second, and having them as a contractor gives you a lot of flexibility because they don't have to work a set schedule. In fact, that's part of the definition of a contractor. They don't necessarily work a set schedule. So there's always ways around that to batch things together.
Well, and Alex, you know, I'm partial to pirates, mentions that, you know, that control piece is so hard. Yep. Because you started this to be the boss. You wanted to be the captain of your ship, right, Alex? But that's the whole point. You still are. You control, like, at some point, you're going to get to the place where you can't list more than you're already listing, or your sales aren't where you want them to be.
You can't source more than you're already sourcing. You can't photograph more.
We talk about this wheel where all of these things are related to the others, you know, when you find that balance. And at some point you're going to reach your ceiling, and you're either going to stay there, or my guess is you're going to evolve and adapt into something else. And either there's different scenarios, right? Maybe you start sourcing higher end or higher price items to make that swap.
You're right. Or it's not even that you want to grow. Sometimes it's you're at this certain level and you're kind of at your capacity, but then something changes in your life and you need to be at this capacity, lower. But you don't really want to lose your progress on your business. You don't want to lose all the income that you're bringing in. You don't want to lose the growth you've had. You have to bring something in to fill the gap. Sometimes you have to drop your amount of time and energy into this for maybe there's an illness, maybe you're ill, maybe somebody, you've taken on extra expenses. I mean, or you have to go a different direction, all kinds of reasons. And like Kaaren said, you could sell, higher price items. Maybe you don't have to sell as many. I mean, there's so many different ways to change that part of the equation.
Well, and then Wes brings up another good point. Like we're like micro focusing on just the business part of this. Seam Store says, Wes says, we hired somebody to clean our house.
Because it wasn't worth $50 an hour or whatever your bot is.
Whatever your time suck is. Like we're finding all kind of trade-offs. Like, we're like, here's an odd example, but like sometimes we both go to the post office, right? Just because we keep each other company, whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not the best way to spend our time. So every now and then, if you're in the middle of a project or I am, one will stay and one will go. And I know that sounds maybe kind of trivial to some of you, but it makes a difference, right? Yeah. Transporting the kid to school and back, to practice and back, doing whatever errands, grocery shopping, post office run, like everybody has these list of things, either business or personal,
right,
that can be flip-flopped around, switched.
And that's part of the reason why wealthier people hire people to do some of these things. It's not necessarily because they're lazy. It's just because whatever they value their time at, it's not worth what they can pay someone else to do it. And they would lose money by doing it themselves, unless they just enjoy it or they want to do it. That's fine too. But that's part of the reason. Like if you're Mark Cuban, a billionaire, are you going to spend your whole day cleaning your house? You could, but you're losing money. You're losing wealth when you're doing that, and maybe he does sometimes. I don't know the cleaning habits of Mark Cuban. But my point is that you hire people, you bring in systems, you make things more efficient or effective to do these things, because you value your time in a certain amount. And that number, guys, there's no magical right number to that. What your VOT is, what your hourly rate should be, the value of your time. And it's not just a monetary value. Maybe you say, hey, I value my eBay business at 20 hours a week. That's what I can realistically give it, given all the other factors in my life that I need to spend time on. And if I have to spend 25, we've got a problem. Like, I don't know where I'm pulling those other 5 hours from. Something else has to give, because when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to an infinite multitude of other things that you can't do with that time. So I think you take whatever you want that number to be and what it looks like for you, and then you figure out how to get there and make the best use of it. Because you know, this idea about growth, whatever level you're at, and it's so arbitrary for some people to maintain a 100 item store and list 1 item a day or even 5 items a week is all they can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. They may not want to grow, but there might come a point where it's like, man, it's getting harder to do this. I can't even do that amount. What can I do differently? I could scale back, but if I don't want to scale back, what can I do that's more effective and more efficient and have a better use of my time?
Well, and Wes also said that they were able to hire a friend to do it. And you know that that speaks to us, Wes. Like whenever you can help someone in need like that, that's perfect because you solved 2 problems there, right? Your friend needed to make money. You needed help cleaning the house. So you came together. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. And Hank says, if I can afford a multi-million-dollar home, I better be able to afford to pay someone to clean it. Yeah. Right. That's exactly right. And with that multi-million-dollar home comes that multi-million-dollar home payment.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. You still have to maintain a way to pay for that. Even if you pay for it all up front, you're out the multi-million. So absolutely. I mean, there's no right or wrong number for your time, guys. And I just think that if you're willing to give up some of the control of your business, which by the way, you don't have control over anyway, that's an illusion. You don't have control over your results, but to some extent. But if you're willing to give that up, your business can be anything you want it to be. And it can be at any hourly rate you want it to be. It can be as big or small as you want it to be. It can go in this direction or that, but it's virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible to grow it very large and to have all this control over it and be diversified if that's a goal of yours. It's just very difficult to do. Like there's just too much to do in it, you know, and there's just not enough time in a given week, in a given day to do it. So you have to figure out ways to relinquish some of that control to get back the real commodity, which is time. It's always about time. So when we say we don't have time for our eBay business, I'm going to challenge you on that. I'm like, have you really gone through this calculation? Have you really figured out the best way to be utilizing the time and the resources you have?
Because our first question would be, well, if you don't have time for the listing and the eBay business, well, then what are you spending your time on?
Right, right. And that might be more important to you. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't know why in the reseller community, sometimes we feel like, oh, if you're not grinding it 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, I got into business so I wouldn't have to do that. Like, that was like, she's more important to me, or Ben's more important to me, my family's more important to me than those sorts of things. Other things I'm doing are more important. I can't spend every waking hour selling on eBay. It would drive me and them crazy. And I actually think my results, at some point, your results would suffer because you're not efficient. You're not effective hour after hour, day after day. There's a point where you start to lose some of that efficiency anyway, not to mention your stress, and, you know, it would have a lot of, damaging effects on your health as well. So you got to find some sort of balance there, guys, with that.
Connie, when are you coming to visit? I'm going to ask every time I see you because we're supposed to make plans. But Connie asks, do we, you and me, use someone to help us list? No, we did not talk about that today. We have in the past, you know, we've had a couple employees along the way, but nothing really stuck currently. Who does it?
Me.
And I have my own little store that I'm on notice to start listing for 2 more. So there you go. But yeah, if it is to be, it is up to me and he. So.
Oh, I like that. If it is to be, it's up
and
to
you know,
me
Ben, my son Ben has some things that he wants to list, and he can hear my voice, I think. So we're going to put those things on my store as well. But part of that trade-off is I'm going to show him how to do it, and then that way, when he flies the coop, he'll have a way. And he's kind of gleaned a lot of that through osmosis from being here and taking the pictures and doing and sourcing with us. And, you know, he's worked for Luke as well. At Endless Entrepreneurs, which is a total gift and a blessing in and of itself too. But yeah, so he's going to be doing more listing as well. So
I think it was Seam Store who said the limited time I get to spend with my wife is priceless. And you know what that just brought to my mind? You cannot outsource spending time with your family.
Mm-mm.
You can't. You can't delegate that. You can't automate that. You can't hire someone to do that for you. You can't. But you can do those things with your business. So think about that. Like, it's up to you. The choice is yours. It's your decision. If you're going to spend your day buried in, you know, your business to the point that it's frustrating you, like it seems to be frustrating Duncan a bit, realize that comes at a cost sometimes that might not be worth it. And like I said, you have to decide where you're going to spend that really valuable commodity time. And it's up to you, but I think you reap other dividends and rewards when you spend it with those other things that you can't get out of your business.
You just touched on something from the documentary we watched last night. So Jason is a novice minimalist. He's actually been one at heart for a long time.
True.
But we've been reading up on it and this and that. But you just touched on the whole, if it doesn't bring you joy, why keep it? Why have it? Why do it? Like if it's tedious, if it's making you crazy. And we talked about this with you know, when we talk about staying in a job that you hate, that's just sucking the life out of you. If the people and the things and your time and your tasks are not bringing you joy, at some point, you know, choose joy, choose to do it differently, choose to do something differently. Like really, like, I don't think I would do this for 18 years if it made me unhappy. If I was a grumpy person and miserable all the time.
You could argue you shouldn't do it for 18 seconds.
Well, there's that, but some people,
I mean, it takes a while sometimes to figure this out. Obviously, you know, what's really bringing you happiness and what's not, that's for sure. And a lot of us, it's not even so much that it brings us happiness or we hate it. We're just sort of in the middle. It's sort of lukewarm, and it's like, well, there's inertia. And I started down this road with this eBay business, and I'm just going to keep going for now because I don't know what other direction to take. And that's kind of a cop-out. I mean, you always have a choice of what direction to take. You are the only person who has that choice. So, and there's myriad, there's your word, there's myriad choices out there.
And you used it correctly. High five.
There's myriad choices out there that you can take and directions you can go. And there's not like a right or wrong answer that I can tell you and say, you should absolutely only do it this way. Like, that might not be work for you. That may not be what, you know, flips the switch for you. You may want to do it totally different, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, if you're not happy with your results, even you might, and that's the problem. You could be happy with your financial results, but not happy with all the other results that come along with it. And those come at a price as well. Financial results are nice, but we like to think, and that's something the minimalist documentary we watched last night really brought home. We like to think that the financial results are the most important, that without those, everything else falls to pieces. And these people, which I thought was so interesting, they were the people who had some of the best financial results. You know, they had not necessarily wealthy, but they were well off. Like, they were doing well, but man, it was coming at a cost. It was taking its toll on them, and they gave it up. They said, you know what, not worth that. It's just, life's too short for that nonsense. So you got to decide what is really worth it to you.
Well, and a potential mic dropping moment here in the show today would be that the one quote that stuck with me the most from last night, and I actually touched on it on one of the posts that are going to come up later this week, but it was, we should love people and use things, and arguably use less things, not the other way around.
Not the other way around.
So stop using people and loving your things, right? Because that's not right. What it's all about.
Yeah, because your things won't love you back.
No.
Not by a long shot. And you know, but people can, and they will. And not that we're, you know, if I can get her to be a minimalist, that would be awesome.
Hey, it's already in my Instagram
What was it we said
profile,
about the
so
shoes? What was it we said about the
true.
shoes? Like, I was like, I think I can get down to like one pair of shoes or something like that.
No,
and you were like,
I don't have 20 pair of shoes.
No, she doesn't.
I have like what, 3? I mean, I might have 10, but I wear 3. Whatever.
I have like 3. Well, it might be 10. That's kind of a big difference.
Whatever.
From 3 to 10.
You know, that was like I like wanted to go out on that like really profound, heartfelt, empathetic moment of loving the people and having less thingies. And look what you did with it. Like, really? Could you just minimalize your mouth for? Just kidding.
No chance. So, well, listen, guys. Thank you guys for coming out today. I hope you enjoyed the show. We know we did talking to you guys. Please leave us a question or comment. In the description below this video, there's lots of helpful links, including a brand new e-commerce tracking spreadsheet. If you guys are interested, it's for Excel. It might work in some of the other options like Docs and OpenOffice. Not positive about that, but I know it works in Excel, and it's got a lot of cool improvements. There's even a special offer code there too. If you guys are interested in it, I'm really proud of it. And I'm starting to already get good feedback just from people seeing like the screenshots and so on, which is pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. You've worked hard. It's a 10-year spreadsheet, if you can even imagine that. You won't need another one for 10 years. It's pretty stout. I mean, that's ridiculous. There you go. But you know, but check out the description for all kinds of helpful links too. There's resources in there. There's also ways to contact us, and we do appreciate it. So yes, we do. Please like it, thumbs it up it. Arg, mateys. Pirates. Always for the pirates. Thank you all for being here today. We hope that you go out there and crush it, whatever that looks like for you. You know, don't set your bar based on someone else's goals or their bar. Just do you and do it the best that you can. And what's your VOT? This is Prof Sales. And Just Ask Kaaren saying good sales to you.